Hey, good afternoon. This is Michelle Thompson, your academic and legal coach, and I am so happy to be with you. Be with you this afternoon. I am continuing my series on editing. So this is for anybody who does academic writing. It's anybody who does legal writing. Although you lawyers out there, and those of you who've been trained in writing in law school, actually know a lot about what I'm going to tell you about, or other writers. It's just that it's very particular to the needs of academic writers. This is a series where, it's designed to, well, all right, let me put it this way. Have you ever had a problem where you've written something and you've edited it, and after you've edited it, it doesn't quite work? It's still just a smidge off. Yeah, I know that problem, right? And you might have really great, flawless sentences. They flow perfectly. They're lovely sentences. But the whole work still doesn't click. It's still just a little bit off. And, we've all had that problem. And the problem and the challenge here, I think, isn't per se whether or not those sentences are perfect. The challenge is how we're editing it. Because the way we're editing it, we're not picking up some of the more, I want to say hidden, but it's not so hidden when you read the piece and it doesn't work, challenges with writing. So the solution is to focus on how we edit. And so I think what we do as writers is we edit everything the exact same way every single time. But I think when we do more extensive writing projects, different kinds of edits are actually required for that. And you have to edit several times with an eye on several different things. And so this is what I'm going to focus this on. Before I jump into this, I want to say that if you have any questions or comments about anything I'm saying, please write them in the comment box. I can see them, and I will answer as many of your questions as possible. Who knows? I might even take one of your edits, one of your comments, and put that in a different writing tip video. So don't be shy, jump in, say what you need to say. I'm basing this series off of Wendy Belcher's book, How to Write an Academic Article in 12 Weeks. No one paid me to say that. I use the book myself. It's pricey, but it's a really good investment. You will never regret getting it. Please get the book. I'm telling you what she taught me as I read the book, and it's totally worth it. She lays out how to edit in this book, and incorporates the kinds of tools you'll need particularly for academic writers to do this. So here we are in the second of a 5-part series. The last installment was editing for argument, and you can find that in the video section here on my page. So I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Today, I'm going to talk about how to edit for structure, the actual structure of your piece. On May 6th, in a week, I will do my writing tip about editing for evidence, making sure that your evidence really strengthens what you're trying to do in your article. And on May 13th, that'll be the last installment for this particular series on editing. You'll be editing for grammar. Okay, so today it's about structure. And I had these really cute index cards I was going to put up, but then I realized they would be backwards. Not helpful. Okay, so today I am going to be talking about editing for structure. And let me define structure as Belcher wrote about it. She defines structure as, quote, the organization of your argument and the evidence for your argument. The organization and evidence for your argument, and that's what needs to work. If you make an analogy to the human body, it's interesting. I live in New York City. And when the weather gets warmer, you start to see people in a lot more athletic gear that really shows their bodies. And this is not a critique, but I notice as you walk down the street and you see people who shed coats and sweaters and leg things, all of a sudden that it's very clear who has scoliosis, who has this curvature in their spine, because all of a sudden all they are in, especially in the morning when I'm walking the dog, is athletic gear. Right? So you can see how their spine curves, and you can see how one hip sits higher than the other, or maybe one shoulder sits higher than the other. And I think that's kind of what we mean by structure. If we think about the backbone of a writing project, the skeleture is a little bit off, right? So you have a hip that's higher than the other, and we don't want that because it clouds your argument, right? It completely clouds your argument. So here's the thing. Some of us can write without an outline, right? You just sit down and stuff flows and you're off and running. I'm jealous. I certainly can't do that. If I write without an outline, it's a big sopping mess and I don't even know where to start to undo it, right? So I like outline like ridiculously. It actually takes me more time to outline than it actually does to write the piece. And that's fine. Do it whatever you need to do. But here's the thing. For both groups, we often end up in a position where, regardless of what we intended, we actually don't accomplish our goals. We don't accomplish our goals when we're writing a piece. So what we need to do is make sure that the article that we're working on actually does what we say it's going to do. And this is where the issue of structure comes in. If it's not structured properly, we won't make our argument as strongly as we could or should. Belcher talks about two different types of structures, micro and macro structure, micro and macro structure. So I find this stuff fascinating because, you write the stuff and you don't really think about it, but she tears apart levels of writing. So here we are with a microstructure, and she identifies 5 types. And you might see in any one academic article these 5 types of structures throughout the piece. So the first part is description. And you know that you're getting to a description, for example, when you have an introduction, right? When I wrote my dissertation, there's a whole part before the introduction that actually just kind of introduces the community that I studied and how I got there and what you should know about them, right? It's completely descriptive. There's no analytical work that happens there. It's also signaled whenever someone writes, for example, right? So that's when you know you're looking at a descriptive microstructure. Another microstructure is sequence. Historians are a big fan of that, right? We use the timeline as sequence. We tend to relate narratives starting at the earliest point of time, and then we work to the latest point in time. But there are other ways to have sequence as well. You can describe an experiment by saying, all right, so here we are at my limits of what I can do in terms of scientific description. But, I started to examine this problem, and so I looked at X, and then I did Y, and then I did Z, right? That's an example of a sequential way of approaching microstructure. There's also causation, and it's a result. And in many works, this tends to be the result section, right? And you also can see causation because you see words like because, thus, and therefore. There's problem and solution. The beginning of an article might state a problem, and then your article is going on to solve that particular problem. It asks a question and answers it. There's also comparison, right? And it's organized by differences and similarities. And there's even a structure within this, right? People can go from what readers know to what they don't know. They can go from the most simple to the most complex. They can go from uncontested to most contested, from general to particular. I know this goes on and on. There's chronological, and there's spatially through a succession of linked objects, right? So those are the many, many ways in which you can structure an article by comparison. So as you're writing your work, you want to be, and as you're editing your work, you want to be very aware of the microstructures that can occur in your work. And like I said, it's not just one kind of structure. You will see this throughout somebody's work. Then there's macro structure. And I'm not going to go too deep here because really this is very much dictated by discipline. And the best way to really understand the macro structure of what you're trying to write is to read journals in your field, right? So I'm an historian. I will read historical journals to get a sense of what the proper macro structure for my work should be. And you should go ahead and do that. There are 4 general macro types. There's a quantitative social science article structures. I tend to think about that as political scientists who are looking at polling data, for example, right? That's a quantitative social science kind of work. There's qualitative social science articles. I know people in higher education period, who are publishing about it tend to look at that. You look, you interview subjects and you kind of relate what they are talking about, right? Those are qualitative social science article structures. The humanities has their own kind of thing. So now that you have a sense of what the different kinds of structures are, I bet you didn't even know they were all there. I didn't quite realize that either. Your question becomes, how do you solve your structural problems? So overall, you want to make sure that each sentence is connected to the next sentence and there are no non sequiturs or digressions. when I lecture a lot in class, I tend to go, oh, this reminds me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you don't want that as you're writing, right? You don't want to write in ways that uncover a mystery. This is not a mystery novel you're writing. This is an academic piece. And here is where Belcher, and actually my advisor, told me to write like a lawyer. Now, I know something about that. Why it's so hard to adapt that style to the humanities, I'll never know. But it was a struggle for me. And here's the thing. When you're a lawyer, in law school, they teach you this like year one. When you write a brief, which is a summary of a case for a judge, you have to do it in the following way. It's a very strict structure, right? The first thing you state is the issue in the case, right? So there's something happened, right? And the something that happened actually raised legal issues. You have to say what the question is. What is the issue in the case? Then you have to state how you would resolve that issue based on the law, very clearly, right? Up front. No doubt about it. And then the rest, then you have the body of the brief, which goes through how you would read the law to resolve that resolve it in your way. Very strict. There's no, like, up front, you know what's going on. There's no leading you down the garden path. Look at the roses, then look at the whatever daisies, and you get the point. I'm not very good at floral issues, but you don't lead people down the garden path to get there. And frankly, in other disciplines, people who can do that are incredibly skilled writers, and most of us really can't pull that off. So you need to write like a lawyer. You need to get everything up front. Let us know what's going on, because frankly, in academic writing, readers need to know where you're going. They want to know where you're going. They don't want to do the guesswork. They don't want to get to the last page of your article and go, oh, right? What readers are trying to do is to evaluate the evidence that you roll out very carefully and to make sure that that evidence actually supports your argument. That's what they're trying to do if they're reading an academic piece. So you don't want to have any facts without knowing how it supports your argument at all. That's not acceptable. You can't do that. And the other part of this is that you don't want the data to organize your work, right? Sometimes you just kind of run through your data, blah, blah, that's it. That was actually a challenge I had with my dissertation, and I got some help to figure out, oh, I don't have an argument. You can't have your data organize your work. Your work needs to organize your data. Your work needs to have a driving argument, and that your data needs to support it. That's what's expected in academic writing. Okay, so I've given you a general sense of how to do that, but let's get really particular, right? So you open your file, now what? I'm learning a lot that as we write, the best writers read a lot. And so much of the writing process is actually reading. So what you need to do is find a model article in your field, an article that you like, and read it. And as you read it, what you're going to do is like underline or highlight the topic headings, right? Every single topic heading, it could be introduction, it could be conclusion, it could, whatever they are, highlight them. Then you want to actually also underline topic sentences of each paragraph, so you know this is what we're going to tackle in this particular paragraph, right? And then you want to write a little summary on the side of each paragraph about what that particular paragraph was about, right? So you're highlighting topic sentences, the topic sentence, the headings, that's what I'm trying to say, headings, topic sentences, and then you want a summary of what each particular paragraph is about. And then after you do that, you want to take a step back and go, what worked and what didn't? And chances are, if it's published, most of it works. It's pretty coherent, right? So you've gone through that process and you see what's ideal. Then go through yours, and yours might be ideal, and if it is, fabulous, move on. Actually, I've been working on an article now, and I actually did this kind of edit, and mine was not ideal at all. Once you start doing these kinds of edits, it becomes very, very clear what works and what doesn't. Very, very clear, and very, very quickly. And it's very eye-opening. So how do you, now that you've identified what works and what doesn't, how do you, let's go further into how to fix it. Now you open your computer, now what? So now that you know that what you outlined didn't work or what you wrote didn't work, you want to be able to move the parts around so that it's organized properly, right? And you might be able to just look at your outline and go, oh, this section needs to go over here, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't do that. I had to turn it into a creative arts project. So what often in filmmaking, what they do is they call storyboarding, and I would write everything down on a card about what part it is, so I could actually move the card parts with the attached paragraph to where they needed to go. And then you rewrite it with everything in its proper place. Ooh, that's how you fix the structure. That's how I made sure that my spine was straight and could support everything that needed to happen. And it's an invaluable process. No matter how good a writer you might be, do it. Just do it, just to get a sense of it. So that's what I have to offer you today in terms of fixing your structure. It's such an important part of writing. I promise you, no journal is going to publish anything that has major structural problems. You really want to make sure you get at this and to make it as good as possible. So thank you so much for listening to this. I have a couple things to ask of you as we go on. First of all, I have a newsletter. I have a newsletter for academics and a separate one for lawyers. After this is finished, I'm going to put the links for those in the comments boxes underneath. Please go ahead, sign up for my newsletter. You'll get monthly little tidbits about whatever it is. And they're varying things for both constituencies, but you're going to find this to be really invaluable, and I would love to have you as part of this community. So sign up for the newsletter. Like my page. That should be really easy. Just click like, right? Okay, very good. Please do that. There are a couple other things I want you to know about. If you live in New York City, on May 6th, a week from today, I'm going to hold my last Brown Bag for Academics for the semester. And the next one will be the first Friday in September. So please join me. You can go to Eventbrite, and it's called Brown Bag Lunches for Academics. I'm so original. I'll put the link for that also in the comments box, so it's easy for you to go ahead and register and join us for that. I'm going to be talking about how to plan and manage the summer so you can get your writing done, how you can get rest and relaxation. Oh my goodness, prepare for the semester ahead. We can do all of these things all in one summer. So please, if you're a New Yorker who's an academic, please join me for that. I hold 2 Twitter chats. One of them is called #OneAcademicThing. And in One Academic Thing, Wednesdays at 11, every Wednesday at 11, I host a conversation where you can tell me one thing that would change your job in a good way as an academic. And you need to write one academic thing as a hashtag so it actually comes to me and I can see it. So please join me for that. If you're a lawyer, starting next Thursday, I've moved it to the evenings because I understand those of you who are lawyers probably barely take lunch. I forgot that about us. So Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. So the One Academic Thing is 11 a.m. One Legal Thing is at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, starting this upcoming week. And you can tell me one thing that you would like to change in your legal life that would make your job go better. One legal thing, all one word, #OneLegalThing. Please join me for that. And finally, if you're a lawyer, I have created a new resource for you, and I would love for you to be part of this community. It's the Tribe of Legal Warriors. If you're a woman, I don't care if you're a solo practitioner, if you work in the government, if you are in a big law firm, it doesn't matter. I don't care. If you are a lawyer and you're a woman, please join us for monthly calls, a Facebook group to support you so that you can set goals and figure out what you want to do in law and make sure that you're on track to doing that. I love backing lawyers and making sure that you get to do the important work that you really want to do. If you click on sign up here on my Facebook page, you can easily get to that and register for that. I would love to have you. And if you have any questions about any of these things that I've been talking about, you can message me. I'll get right back to you, and we can continue to grow this community together. I think that's it. Have a great weekend. Thank you.